All right, we're live. Welcome back to the Loopcast. Today, joined by Josh, but we have a very special guest, okay? So we have Rosie joining us, and Rosie is a very unsung hero on the Loopcast team. She helps us out with our research. She's genuinely an MVP, probably of the team, helps us out, get ready for shows, do a lot of nitty-gritty work, and she's very interesting, and we're like, it's been too long. I feel like we need to get her on the podcast. So Rosie, thank you for joining today. Really appreciate you taking the time.
No, I'm happy to be here. I feel like I'm a poor replacement for Erica, but yeah, it's exciting to be on this side of the screen.
Although someone emailed in and was like, man, I just really appreciate Erica and the boys. And she's like, I just forget their names. And I'm like, that's fair. So today's show, we can just have Rosie and the boys, if that's...
Hey, it's Casual Friday, so we're good with that.
Yeah, okay, John Fetterman.
Yeah,
no, okay.
The sweatshirt.
So you call me John Fetterman because I'm wearing a hoodie, right? Is that what you're going with?
Yes.
Not
correct.
that I'm mentally ill or something like that.
No,
hey,
no.
It's because I'm trying to represent right here.
Oh,
Benedictine College hoodie, baby.
Big reveal in the live. Josh is wearing a Benedictine College hoodie. Wait, but that's odd because they're kind of irrelevant right now. No one's talking about them or some speeches that were said or anything.
Oh, no. Trust me. The cat ladies are raving about the place.
So, but before we get into Benedict and Rosie, a little background on you, I think feels appropriate. What are you up to right now? Where are you at?
Yeah. So I graduated high school in 2018, and then I spent 2.5 years discerning a religious vocation with the Dominican Sisters of Mary, Mother of the Eucharist. Shout out to them. They're the best. Love the Dominican.
Go Michigan.
I'm not biased at all, but there it is. And then I started attending university at Ave Maria University in Southwest Florida.
Which is the Benedict of the South.
No, the Notre Dame of the South, as it's known.
The Benedictine of the South, yep.
Yeah, like the best university ever. And yeah, I'm about to start my senior year there. I've been working with Catholic Vote for over a year now. So.
Gosh, time flies when you're having fun.
Love it.
Right?
They still call it the Notre Dame of the South while you're there, right? That was a...
Actually, I haven't heard anyone say that except you.
I've just been
Only Tom reads the press releases.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
I'm just old now. Geez, when Rosie started her intro with I graduated high school, I was like, gosh, I'm feeling old now, and I'm usually the one being...
I like how you feel old, yeah.
I know. But today we got a lot to talk about, okay? So there's been... I've not seen this level of virality from something in a long time. Something has dominated the news cycle for 6 days. And when we first covered this on Wednesday, I had no idea how big it would get or the reactions it would elicit, but we're here. And for people that are online, they may have seen certain parts of this story, or people who aren't online are like, what's going on? Why is everyone talking about a kicker? So I want to start at the beginning, give a brief timeline, and then we can get into some of the reactions, okay? So if we start out, Harrison Butker, he's a devout Catholic kicker for the Chiefs. He's very public about his faith. He was invited by Benedictine College to give their commencement speech. And I think I have a quote here. I think I know that my message today has a little less fluff than is expected for these speeches, but I believe that this audience and this venue is the best place to speak openly and honestly about who we are and where we all want to go, which is heaven. So yes, you could say that a billion times. There wasn't a lot of fluff to this speech. It targeted things like bad leadership from the Biden administration, in terms of his support of abortion, very vocal support of abortion, things like the bishops, their reaction to COVID, weak leadership there. But that wasn't what was targeted, and that wasn't what broke into the mainstream virality. I have the full transcript. I'd highly recommend everyone to go read the full transcript, watch the full speech, because for the most part, when I've talked to people, they are only getting fragmented pieces or reactions from other people.
Yeah, personally, commentary with fragments of his speech.
Exactly.
Right.
And personally, I think it was a phenomenal speech. I think he said a lot of things that needed to be said. You can disagree on the venue, but I think on substance, Catholics, for the most part, except liberal ones, agree with a lot of what he said. But I encourage everyone to go full transcript. The part that got picked up and taken everywhere were these lines. I'm going to read it for you here today. For the ladies present today, congratulations on your amazing accomplishment. You should be proud of all that you have achieved to this point in your young lives. I want to speak directly to you briefly because I think it is you, the women, who have had the most diabolical lies told to you. How many of you are sitting here now about to cross the stage and are thinking about all the promotions and titles that you are going to get in your career? Some of you may go on to lead successful careers in the world, but I would venture to guess that the majority of you are most excited about your marriage and the children you will bring into this world. I can tell you that my beautiful wife, Isabel, would be the first to say that her life truly started when she began living her vocation as a wife and as a mother. I'm on the stage today and able to be the man I am because I have a wife who leans into her vocation. I'm beyond blessed with the many talents God has given me, but it cannot be overstated that all of my success is made possible because a girl I met in band class back in middle school would convert to the faith, become my wife, and embrace one of the most important titles of all, homemaker. And he teared up during this and got a rousing applause from the Benedictine audience. That was picked up, and it is really unbelievable the things that I've heard said about that, but I just wanted to be clear, this is the substance of the speech. He was praising his wife for making sacrifices, embracing her vocation, and making their home beautiful, and that all of his accomplishments are due to that. Now, we get into the reactions. Essentially, what was blasted everywhere was that Harrison Butker is telling women to get back in the kitchen, that they don't have value outside of being a homemaker. And I think especially the part that he said this to an audience, primarily of what I assume to be about 50% women who just graduated from college, that he was somehow telling them that all that what they've done is worthless and that they're just going to end up being mothers and children, as if that's somehow demeaning of their accomplishments, is the most genuine. Like, I said that without a lot of profanity, which has been used across the board, very vulgar terms.
Crazy.
It's been
crazy.
Unbelievable that I haven't heard anyone even read the transcript, the reactions to this. So that is the substance of what happened. We get into some of the response now, okay? So the NFL, notably known for not knowing exactly what good men maybe look like, we have Harrison Butker gave a speech in his personal capacity. Jonathan Bean, the NFL's senior vice president and chief diversity inclusion officer, told People magazine in a written statement, his views are not those of the NFL as an organization. The NFL is steadfast in our commitment to inclusion, which only makes our league stronger. So we get condemnation from the no fund.
Love it.
So,
Let's just not include, anyone who happens to be Christian or have any conservative values at all. Wife beaters are welcome, but not Christians who actually care about the traditional values. I love it. Great. Way to go, NFL. Paragon of virtue.
It's funny you mentioned that, Josh, because people felt so strongly about it. They made a change.org petition, which, sidebar, has to be the laziest and dumbest form of virtue signaling I've ever seen. Like, I don't think a change.org petition has ever worked, period. But so we get the change.org petition. And I'm curious actually like how many signatures it's at right now. It's in the hundreds of thousands. Basically to get the Chiefs to dismiss Harrison Butker for making several dehumanizing remarks during his commencement speech at Benedictine College on May 11th. Here's what the three-time Super Bowl champion said about women, Pride Month, COVID, abortion, and more. And I mean, I was quick to point out, I didn't see a change.org petition when Rashi Rice caused a 6-car accident drag racing on the highway and fled the scene and then assaulted someone in the club. So that was interesting because that happened.
That's not a threat to the left.
Not Tyreek Hill, who strangled and beat his girlfriend, and then broke his kid's arm. He's still in the league with fat contracts from the Chiefs and whatever. The NFL, quite obviously, has a domestic abuse problem, and they have a problem cleaning that up. But a lot of people have taken umbrage of a man praising his wife for being a homemaker and wife. So that's a baseline of.
It's so silly. I'm tempted to make a joke about it, but of course, domestic violence is not something to laugh at. It's a very serious thing, and the NFL, tries to play this cute line where, like, well, until they're proven guilty and and this kind of stuff, and they really don't like to talk about it because it's highly embarrassing, and they'd rather not the issue go away and not to have to say anything. But then Harrison Butker comes along and says something uplifting about women who decide to stay at home. They feel the need to say, well, we got to distance ourselves from that. We're in favor of inclusion. Like, what, homemakers are not included? I don't understand this. Like, it's so bizarre. But the fact is, Harrison Butker attacked the sacred cows of the sexual revolution. He said no to abortion, IVF, surrogacy, the rainbow crowd. He didn't even mention that really that much. He just kind of made a side joke about pride for a joke. For the most part, he was going after like the attacking men in their traditional roles and attacking women in their traditional roles. He said we should be supportive of men that want to provide for a wife who can stay home and take care of the kids. Is that for everyone? Maybe not. Maybe. And then some people are like, oh, well, you're just able to do it because you make millions of dollars kicking a football. And the fact of the matter is, I find that so annoying of an argument, because there are a lot of people I know who work very hard and work really hard, and they make sacrifices, and they decide that they're going to maybe have older cars. Like, maybe mom, my family, like I have 2 11, 12-year-old cars until last week. One finally died and I had to get a 7-year-old car. Okay. Wow. But we make those sacrifices because it's like, we want my wife to be able to be at home and help out the kids and do that kind of stuff. But that entails a lot of sacrifices, especially for those families like ours that use Catholic education, because it's like, we have to pay tuition in addition, so my heart really goes out to him. But there's this idea that, oh, he's just because he's a millionaire that he's able to have a housewife. Give me a break. There are a lot of families out there that make a lot of sacrifices that usually a mom can stay home, but sometimes it's a stay-home dad, whatever. But like, to me, this whole thing set off a nerve with a lot of people. And you just can't help but wonder why they're so angry. So like, if you're a feminist and you think staying at home and raising kids is the worst thing in the world, but you believe in choice and you believe in freedom and you believe women should be able to do whatever they want. So if a woman decides to stay home and raise kids, you're like, you can kind of roll your eyes and go, sounds boring, but yeah, to each your own. But they don't think like that, do they? They still harbor a ton of guilt. At least some of them do. And they just get so angry. It's like, what is your deal? Like, and it just amounts to this fact that it really feels like that there are some women that are unhappy and they're angry that there might be women that are happy about doing this vocation. I'm not saying that's everybody. I'm not. Okay. But it's like, chill out. If this isn't your thing, like, what happened to live and let live? Like, hey, you want to be Susie Homemaker? Go for it. Like, why is that such a crime? So weird.
Josh, we have to, put aside our misogyny here and let the female in the podcast talk. Rosie, I'd just be curious from your perspective, what are your thoughts on all of this?
So, yeah, Harrison Butker makes some really great points about the importance of marriage, the importance of being a homemaker. I'd say from my perspective, right now in our culture, there's this, especially for young women, the economy is really difficult, especially when you're trying to start a family, when you're trying all of this. And so I think there's this difficulty in, okay, I may not have the option to be a homemaker. And so you start out on a path, usually trying to get a career. And it's also a security for a woman as well. Like having a job, having a career, having a degree, just in case something were to happen to your husband. And that way you can still provide for yourself and your children. So I think just putting that out there, like, okay, he's talking at Benedictine. There's a lot of Catholic women there. They all got degrees. Clearly, they're all graduating. A lot of the times it is for that security, right? So that if you can take care of yourself until you have a husband, and then if you're not able to be a stay-at-home mom, then you can continue that, or you have that security.
That's a good point.
Something were to happen.
And
so I'm just putting this out there. And a lot of the debate is okay, can I do both? Erica does both. And she's a rock star, right? Queen. So there's this debate going on. And I think young Catholic women are trying to, it's a sensitive topic for us too, because we're trying to navigate this world where the dream might not be possible. And you just have to live with that.
I think it's because Erica's a superstar. She's like Madre Mio. She can bilocate and do two things at once, work the Catholic vote while also taking care of all of her kids. But I would say this. I mean, like, it is true that, like, for, people in their 20s, especially women who might be wanting to consider this vocation, there is that ultimate concern. Like, okay, how's this going to be able to work? And that's actually kind of one of the things I'm glad to be a part of the Knights, is that the whole purpose, the reason why the Knights of Columbus was founded was because what would happen if, men in these hard factory jobs, something would happen to them and they die, like then the wife and all the kids. So that was the whole purpose of like, let's create this mutual aid society, and became life insurance, right? And so that makes sense. Like, there's those options like that. But I would also like to say, now this is where I feel like Gen X, I'm not saying we're perfect, okay? Because we understand.
You're perfect, Josh.
We do understand some of the good things that the boomers did, and we recognize some of the good points that millennials and Gen Zers are saying, hey, wait a minute, some of this stuff doesn't add up anymore. And I feel like we're able to kind of, say, you know what, maybe we could be doing this better. So, for example, the idea for baby boomers and those who are older were like, hey, you're 20 years old, get the heck out of my house and go do something with your life. Okay, yeah, I get the sentiment. Like if you just got a kid in your basement playing video games all day and he's being a loser, give him a good swift kick in the rear. I get it. Go out there, make a living, do something for yourself. But this idea that, okay, so you're 19, 20 years old, obviously you should immediately then rent an apartment or something like that. I don't agree with that actually either. I don't think that's necessarily, like for me and my kids, I'm be like, look, I want you to get a job. I want you to get married and start a family as soon as you can. But I actually kind of feel like I'm very much pro Protestant work ethic, work hard. I like that stuff. Okay. But I also feel like, we need to have a multi-generational support system. Like once kids are 18, you're like, oh, not my problem anymore. See you later. Like, no. Like I want to help, I don't want to be a crutch for them. I want them to gain independence and stuff like that. But if my kid stayed for another year or two to try to save up money so that they could start a family, like that would be a natural thing to do. Like I think in one way America could be a little bit more pro-family like that and have a better idea of things. But in America too often today, it's like, oh, kick you out of the house when you're 18. See you later. You're on your own. And then when grandma and grandpa are too old, we'll send you to some nursing care. We'll have someone else deal with you. Instead of a more Catholic understanding traditionally on other countries where it's like, we take care of grandma and grandpa. We bring them back into our house. We don't kick the 21-year-old out right away. If they need a helping hand, give them a helping hand.
Right. If I could interject and kind of back to what you were saying, Rosie, I think what was missing from his speech, which is somewhat confusing me, although I think I understand the psychology behind it, he didn't say to all the women there, like, don't go work, or like what you did was meaningless. He praised the virtues that come with being a mother and living your vocation in that way, raising a family, making a home. And I think this is another misconception. The true purpose of education is valuable. Education in itself is valuable. And so just because you went to college and you didn't use that at a big accounting firm doesn't mean it's invaluable. I think the modern version of education has pushed that. But the true concept of education, I'm sure that you could probably relate, is discovering truth, forming theological virtues,
and formation of the whole person,
formation of the soul,
an integrated whole person who's going to be contributing to society no matter where and no matter what they're doing. I guess it's just and I agree with that. I think it's the phrasing that is causing that's problematic for people. How many of you are sitting here now about to cross the stage and are thinking about all the promotions and titles you're going to get into career? Some of you may go on to lead successful careers in the world, but I would venture to guess that the majority of you are most excited about your marriage and family and children you're bringing to this world. So I think it's the fact that he almost puts them in two camps. It's just odd phrasing. And I think that's
I love the guy.
People off.
I love Harrison. Good guy. But it doesn't strike me as completely strange that somebody, again, he's not a person who does writing and speaking on a regular basis, okay? And sometimes you bring somebody else from a different field. Like, Duke brought in Jerry Seinfeld, comedian.
Literally,
he as a comedian, though, of course, with a stand-up routine, he's talking all the time, right?
Yeah.
And he's used to writing scripts or whatever, so he may be even a little bit better to, sort of wing it, like in terms of what to say. Whereas Harrison, on a regular basis, he's dealing with, real life issues. It's 40 men trying to win a football game or whatever, and there's a camaraderie there, and they work together. But he's not maybe necessarily giving lots of speeches on a regular basis. So could it have been maybe more polished if he had been giving more speeches? I'm sure that's probably true. And I'm not saying you're criticizing him, Rosie. I'm just saying when it comes to other people, like that they would get so angry and hostile that it wasn't like Well, anytime you want, it feels like, I guess my point here is, it feels like anytime somebody wants to offer support for a conservative or traditional value, whether it's pro-life or pro-family, stay-at-home, any of that kind of stuff, it feels like, well, it's incumbent upon you to be absolutely perfectly polished and be absolutely
Yeah.
perfectly flawless in your execution delivery, and make sure you
Mention
don't
all the
step on any
caveats
toes. And
Yeah,
and
yeah,
it's
yeah.
like, really? I mean, so basically you're saying Jesus Christ himself is about the only person who could ever deliver a speech perfectly, and you still nitpick that. I mean, it's like, it's kind of crazy. It's like, is the gist of his speech that he hates women working in the workforce? No. It's that he's trying to praise women
Right.
that want to work at home, stay at home, and he thinks that,
Like
kind
you
of might
can
be
praise
better.
something without taking away from something else. And that's what's being missed. Like he praised
Yeah.
something that does not take away from all the other good that all the other things are doing, even if it's religious life or lay consecrated life. Like, but anytime you praise something doesn't mean you have to mention all the other avenues. And so what I'd like to do here, because there's so much more to the story, I think we all agree in substance with what he said. And I'd say every person I've talked to that have had kind of the, legitimate concerns with phrasing or whatever, they all agree in substance. But the substance is being attacked from the outside. So I'm seeing people go off in the chat about this. Yes. So I don't know about Jenna Bush. I'm seeing Jenna Bush thrown around, but the Kansas City official Twitter account tweeted just a reminder that Harrison Butker lives in blank. And I'm not going to say it because I'm not going to keep pushing it out. But they revealed his county.
The city of Kansas City, in their Twitter account, they mentioned where he lives.
Yes, correct.
Yes.
Unbelievable.
It's
And
so scary.
Did you hear what happened though? The
Is that it?
response to that, by the way,
Well,
the attorney general of Missouri is investigating the person who did that.
as they should.
Yeah.
That's like amazing. Like,
Because they
it never
took this
happens
down.
like that.
Well, they took this down and then they put up "we apologies" for a previous tweet. It was shared in error. I'm sure this was probably like a cute joke, but when someone is receiving this much hate on a national schedule, like on a national level, what could possess you to try to direct people to where he lives? Like this man has a wife and children that obviously he's very proud of because he's talking about it publicly, which comes at a sacrifice, obviously, because you get crazies like this.
Then there's the liberal commentator, I forget his name, who's saying, hey, you know what? You can impress your wives if you're a football player and you like target
Try to
him as
take
an
his head
athlete.
off.
Yeah, basically cause him head injuries. It's like, really? Okay. All right, cool. There's a lot of conservatives that didn't care much for Colin Kaepernick. And they said, but like, I don't remember anyone like saying,
No one revealed where he lived. No one said,
like let's dox him or let's try to smash his head in like on the football field. Like, no. Like, come on, people. Like,
Also,
take a
just
breather.
the irony of the fact that he's a Catholic at a Catholic college talking to Catholics. And, I bet
And he
if
brings
you
up
went
Catholicism. It's so weird. Like we're used to going to Georgetown where they would talk about anything but that,
exactly.
And so people are getting all upset. And I'm thinking like, okay, what are all the comments everyone always makes? Like, if you don't like it, don't watch it. If you don't like it, don't listen. Like, there's a big part
But it
of me
turns
that's like,
out
you don't like it. What?
every time they said that kind of stuff, they were lying.
Totally. And so I think that's bad. And I'm going to get into some of the support and defense he got into, but probably my favorite and arguably somehow the most viral of all of this was the ladies at The View felt like they needed to dip their toes into what
I
was
bet
going
you they
on.
were cackling over this.
And can we run that clip? I mean, this
Were they all wearing Butker jerseys? I can't remember. Probably not.
No. Jessica, do we have that clip, the View clip? If not, we can roll a little bit longer. Oh, there we go.
I agree with you that freedom, in the spirit of freedom of speech, I don't want people shut down or fired for things they're willing to say.
Sure.
I will break with you on the comparison to Colin Kaepernick for this reason. Colin Kaepernick was standing up for the rights of many and saying in a social justice moment, this is a reminder that we're not there yet. What this man is doing is not just a devout Catholic. This is someone who's practicing something called the traditional Latin Mass, which is divergent from the majority of Catholics. It's compared to being cult-like and extremist like some religions in the Middle East and Asia. So this is a very extreme religion, and what bothers me about that as a Christian is that when people abuse Christianity, they often not only cherry pick from the Bible, they misinterpret and lie by omission, by taking out parts that would have explained something a little better. So what I can say to him as a Christian is
Interesting coming from a
if you're
Protestant.
using this to oppress a people or hold them down, you're not walking with Jesus. If you are using the religion, if you are more obsessed with the religious rituals and practices than you are with the word of Jesus, you're not walking with Jesus. And if you're using it for the judgment of others and as a weapon to beat people down, you're also not walking with Jesus. So I would really encourage him, to find the best parts of faith and not diverge into extremist beliefs.
Because Jesus wants you to work for, Deloitte and Touche, not to actually work at your. Here's the thing that gets me about this, though. I mean, it's like if you say Colin Kaepernick, like let's give an example. If what Colin Kaepernick had done is given a speech at, let's say, Moorhead, which is a historically black college in Atlanta, right? And it talked about how, hey, America still needs to deal with its racism, and here's why, and all these reasons, and the Black Lives Matter and all that kind of stuff. I might have said, okay, I don't really care for this speech. I don't care for it, whatever. But, to each his own. It's free speech. That university can give him a platform to speak and say whatever he wants to. I would say you have every right to do that. But the fact of the matter is what Colin Kaepernick did was he took a knee during the American flag, which is disrespectful to everyone who served in the military.
On the clock during an NFL game. Like, this
exactly.
Isn't even close.
Whereas Harrison Butker didn't disrupt the game, and he wasn't shoving it in people's faces. He did it on his own time at a different place. So it's baloney. But like to me, it's like hilarious. Like if there's a problem with one of those two people and talking outside their lane, which is the commentary that National Catholic Distorter used. So like, oh, you're talking outside of his lane. Yeah, it's so hilarious. It's like, I mean, give me a break, these people. It's just.
So, but I mean, guys, like maybe the beauty of this is that it's revealed a much deeper, darker anti-Catholic animus from secular society. Like the fact that she felt comfortable
the mommy wars that.
So the TLM is a mass. She was funny. He was like, "Oh, it's this extremist divergence."
The
TLM was
the
mass.
She doesn't even know what she's talking about.
No, she has no idea what she's talking about. But the fact that she felt comfortable speaking on something she had no idea about on a mass that's been a part of the church since the 4th century. It's the way that we've worshipped God since the 4th century. Our saints, our martyrs, our popes. Pope Francis has said mass in Latin. Like talking about it like it's somehow this like Da Vinci Code sect of like crazies. And then my personal favorite part of this, she's Protestant and she's saying, I hate when people really cherry pick from the Bible and they pick and choose. And I'm like, well, you've kind of done that from the Bible itself.
You mean the table of contents that was written by bishops. Okay, that's
so
cool.
There's that. And then there's also, she didn't have the courage to name the Middle Eastern extremist religions she was referring to.
Mm-hmm.
She sure didn't have any problem talking about Catholicism, but if she would have said Islam, she'd probably be kicked off the show. So if they brought on someone who was Muslim onto the show or onto a commencement speech, they would have given a speech and no one would have touched it or they would have praised it because you can't criticize those people. But Catholics, again, seem to be the only group in America that you can openly tee off and accuse of being cult-like and extremist for something that's been a part of the Catholic Church for thousands of years. Still is.
Not to mention all of the different kinds of rites. Like the TLM is just one rite of the, like you take Byzantine, like Eastern Orthodox, we have like all of these various different rites, all of the various movements in the church, and to say, oh, this particular one is divergent. To be Catholic is to be universal. And there are so many different ways people practice their faith. And yes, the Novus Ordo is probably the most common in America, but that doesn't mean that we're the majority.
I guess I think that's a bit of a distraction though, I think, because quite honestly, it happens to be the case that like 99% of people who go to the TLM are also pretty socially conservative. I'm exaggerating. I mean, it's not all of them, but
probably is.
A large percentage of them are. But you imagine a scenario where the TLM was like the bastion for like the James Martin type, rainbow crowd or whatever. Like then they wouldn't have a problem with the TLM. You know what I'm saying? I mean, like to them, ultimately to the ladies at the View who are cackling about all this other kind of stuff, they could not care less about the Latin Mass at all, really, at the end of the day. What they have a problem with is that there would be a group of Catholics in the church who are saying, actually, we've been too silent the last 40, 50 years about the sexual revolution, and we should push back against abortion, surrogacy, and not all this idea of women working, but like man-hating feminism that says, you need to, like, look, I have no problem with working women. I hire working women. Like, this is crazy. Like, I mean,
Dirty secret, Catholic vote is majority women. I think we have
like, I mean,
more
what I don't
female
understand the arguments I hear all the time. It's just kind of bizarre. I mean, but I mean, again, it gets to this idea that, Harrison Butker touched a nerve, and it's not that he was promoting liturgy that all these ladies are upset. It's that he's saying abortion's horrible and surrogacy is horrible, and there's nothing wrong with a career, but like if
gender
you're a
ideology,
woman,
he took aim at too, which is a sacred
right?
cow.
Exactly.
He went after
and
all the
it's
sacred
like,
cows.
I think it is true that women have been told for too long, like the only way you can find meaning is through work. Like I've been clear about this from the beginning. I have no problem at all with women working. I think it's great, and some people work from home. Some people, hybrid situation, work a little bit, whatever. We can have those discussions. And is there some misogyny around the country? Is there some sexism? Are there some men who are sexist? Yes, of course there are. Just like there's some feminists who are like absolutely, they wouldn't even have to hear me speaking. They would just take one look at me and go, bald, fat, white guy. I hate him. Like, so what? Like, I'm not going to cry a
They
river
were all
over
in the
this.
audience at the
Move
beauty
on.
bash.
Yeah. I mean, it's
all
like,
in the
And
audience.
I think the lie too is that you're going to be more free if you have a career. You're going to be more free to do what you want to do. You're going to be more free to
economic
go
power.
and you're going to be more fulfilled.
I get it.
And that's not the case at all. I mean, if you take like Gaudium et Spes, like you can only find yourself in a true gift of self. So you're only really going to be fulfilled in your life, whether it's career, whether it's and you're waiting for your spouse, or if you're married, or if you're doing both and like our superstar Erica. It's all about your attitude towards it. Is it self-fulfilling? Are you doing it for yourself so you can gain something out of it? Or are you acting as a gift? Are you giving
Or is it
of
sanctified?
yourself?
And it's like, my
Is it
goodness,
getting
are
you
there
to
selfish men in the
Yeah.
workforce? Yes, of course. I mean, my goodness, of course. I would say men and women each have their own, we all sin, and we all have the sins that we're more susceptible towards. It's not, this is not a universal, always the case thing, but like women tend to be, like maybe gossip is a bigger, temptation to sin for women than it is for men. Maybe greed is a bigger problem for men than for women. Are there not greedy men or women? Of course there are. I mean, it's just generalizations. They're not like, I get it. But here, when it comes to Harrison Butker and speaking at Benedictine, we applaud him for standing up for these values and talking about the importance of raising a family. And a lot of these left-wing nuts out there that are attacking him we want to make sure everyone understands, like, we stand with Harrison Butker. We applaud what he said. We think he had a great contribution, to the conversation. You know what? There's more to life than just working. And not that working is bad, but we are proud to stand with Harrison Butker, and people are calling for him to be removed from the football team. That's a bunch of garbage. Catholic Vote is calling on Catholics to stand with Harrison Butker. So I encourage people to go to catholicvote.org and sign our petition and show support for him. Make sure the NFL, this whole NFL, like, we believe in inclusion, as opposed as if Harrison Butker is against inclusion. That's a bunch of garbage. And we're calling on the NFL and the Chiefs by the Hunt family, make sure that they don't boot Harrison Butker just because he stands up for basic Christian morality that, every Christian believed 50 years ago.
Right. And I do actually want to commend, I'm loading it up here, but Tavia Hunt, she's the wife of Clark Hunt, who owns the Chiefs, had a great Instagram post in support saying,
That was
I've
awesome.
always encouraged my daughters to be highly educated and chase their dreams. I want them to know that they can do whatever they want that honors God. But I also want them to know that I believe in finding a spouse who loves and honors you as or before himself, and raising a family together is one of the greatest blessings this world has to offer. Studies show that committed married couples with children are the happiest demographic, and this has been my experience as well. Affirming motherhood and praising your wife, as well as highlighting the sacrifice and dedication it takes to be a mother, is not bigoted. It is empowering to acknowledge that a woman's hard work in raising children is not in vain. Countless highly educated women devote their lives to nurturing and guiding their children. Some disagreeing with you doesn't make them hateful. It simply means they have a different opinion. Let's celebrate families, motherhood, and fatherhood. Our society desperately needs dedicated men and women to raise up and train the next generation in the way they should go. Proverbs 31:28 says, "Her children arise and call her blessed. Her husband also, and he praises her. Many women do noble things, but you surpass them all. Embracing the beautiful roles that God has made is something to celebrate. I also caution against taking things out of context. Sound bites overlaid with hateful comments are not what we want to model for our children or others. We need more dialogue and values, in my opinion, in this country and less hate. Great response from Tavia Hunt. And I have to
That
say,
takes a
too,
lot of courage because she could have just
Yeah.
kept quiet if she wanted to. So
to her point about the hateful comments, it's been insane to me to see, like, here's a good example. Mary Margaret Allahan, reporter at the Daily Signal. She basically just said something in support of Harrison because what he said was praiseworthy and
she
great.
bought a jersey.
Bought a jersey and
It's number one sales right now on the NFL's website.
Number one sales in the NFL. Yeah, exactly. That speaks for itself. But someone in the comments was like, basically told her like, shut up. You should be back in the kitchen, according to her, or according to him, after she said something. And I was like, these are the people that are supposedly pro women? Like the people, all the meanest comments have been directed from people on the other side to any woman daring support. And this is coming from a man too. So
I mean,
like, how is this
This whole
empowering
thing
for
about
you
the
to tell?
kitchen thing, though, it's like it drives me crazy because, of course, both the left and the right don't even have the right version of events. They just feel like every single mom in the 1950s stayed at home. Like no one ever worked outside the workforce, or no one else had any. As if like this 10 years were frozen in time, and that was the way the things always were. I mean, there are a lot of families. Like again, if you worked on a farm.
Dude,
This
someone
idea-
brought up John Adams' wife, Abigail Adams. When he was gone, she ran the farm.
Yeah,
The whole thing.
Also, Smith College in the 1950s, one of the most prestigious all-women's colleges that were training women to have careers and teaching them physics and chemistry. And, this is also happening in the 1950s, just FYI.
Totally.
Yeah, I
And
mean, just again, it's
We're
like
missing the point.
we just have to ask the question: is it like illicit? Is it unseemly for a woman to be a stay-at-home mom? Just ask the question: like, is that? Do you really have a major problem with that? Like, is that your beef? Like, if so, like maybe go touch grass, bro. Like, you're weird.
Yeah, I think what he said, and this is true, and this is what's upsetting people, is that women that becoming mothers, wives and mothers, is fulfilling, life-giving, and satisfying. It will bring you purpose. That is the crux of what he's saying. That is what we as Catholics believe, and that's what many people of goodwill believe. And there's people on the other side of that equation that have bought the bill of goods from the sexual revolution that have propped up society in an unnatural fashion. So being on hormonal birth control is unnatural. That did not exist before 40 years ago.
1930, right? Yeah.
50 years ago, 60 years ago, whatever, this century. Being propped up on abortion, like you should abort your child in order to have any type of life. That's unnatural. Surrogacy, like gay people having kids through surrogacy, child trafficking, that's unnatural. None of these things.
So is IVF.
IVF, unnatural. And like the reason IVF's even being considered is because women are told you can put off having children as long as possible. And we'll just freeze your eggs and then we'll do this. That's unnatural. Like all these things are unnatural. And if you go look at any statistics on depression and women are more depressed now than they've ever been. Think about how many pills are prescribed to the average woman, antidepressant prescription.
Now
all-time
here,
high.
can I just?
If I may land the plane, what was being suggested is the truth. That is the truth. Even if it makes you uncomfortable, that's the truth. What is being propped up right now is unnatural and not making people happy and will not continue the human race. So one side that's being presented, I think all the people that have bought the bill of goods, it's almost like you're in so deep, you have to rationalize something that isn't good. So like, for example, if you're living in something that you know not to be true is not making you happy, but you're in so deep, you're going to go down swinging. And I think there's kind of like some version of that paired with many people who are either formerly Catholic, formerly Christian, who either experienced abuse or are very dissuaded, who are some of the angriest critics of what's going on now. And so that's why I think the reaction doesn't make a ton of sense, because it is very emotional and there's a lot of abuse and hurt going on. A lot of people.
And when it comes to that emotion, it's worth exploring and seeing what has been the lived experience. I know that the left always talks about that, the Catholic left, and it kind of makes you want to go. Ugh. But there is some truth to like examining how it is that things were done in the past. So, for example, in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, whatever, this idea where we'd always like, like grandma's always like, now when are you going to have kids? All this kind of stuff. Like, okay, mom, gosh, we'll see. I mean, you know, it is a crazy world out there, and there's lots of different values being attacked at everything, and our culture is pushing, as you say, like this sort of like work for corporations, find fulfillment there, you know, like don't, you know, everything is. I mean, we talked about that before with Tim Carney. Like we have a culture that's family unfriendly, you know, and so it's not going to be a shock that men and women both don't really feel interested in settling down and raising a family or whatever. And maybe the older generations were trying to like, well, wait a minute, why are you guys not wanting to do a family? Like this is how it was always been done, and just kind of scolding them like, oh, aren't you going to get married? Like the wagging the finger is not the answer here.
Yeah,
you know?
Josh, sorry. I think Rosie, you had something that you'd like to say. I just want to make sure you get the.
Yeah. I just wanted to say, I think part of the problem is that a lot of these people who are making these comments, who are so against marriage, unfortunately and tragically had really bad examples of marriage growing up. I just want to make that point and put that out there because
100%.
I think it's important to say I've been super blessed by, shout out to my parents, by watching their marriage. And yeah, it hasn't always been perfect, but they work on it, and they work really hard at their marriage. And I know a lot of great marriages, and that just hasn't been the example of a lot of these people. So they have no interest in marriage because the examples they've seen are not appealing. And so just want to put that out there to say, okay, these people are attacking it. Like you said, Tom, this is a very emotional topic. And it's something that I think having a good marriage, a lot of people don't think is possible. So even more of a reason for young Catholic families to get married, for people who are married to be a good example of marriage, because that is what our culture needs. And they're reacting really violently. But I think the more young couples who are getting married, the more people who are getting married and showing that marriage can be beautiful and fulfilling and life-giving, then I think we're going to start bringing back some good into the culture. But yeah,
I think that's a great point, Rosie, because I feel like that's one of the things that's frustrated me so much with, I guess, the way the Catholic Church has been operating for so long in the last 40 or 50 years. Like, again, a lot of good people in the priesthood and in the episcopacy, bishops, right? You know, they have good hearts, they have good minds, whatever. I'm not saying they're all evil, but I feel like not confronting some of these difficult issues that are coming and confronting men and women in the culture today, especially in the last 50 years over the sexual revolution, not talking about these issues and just emphasizing the Church of Nice and making sure we're not ruffling too many feathers. I think you run into these problems then, because the culture is saying, well, contraception, of course, you know, and have 3 kids, or 2 kids, no more. And so, you know, Rosie, you talk about being blessed with having parents, you know, who are faithful and helpful and wonderful.
I can second that too.
And again, I keep saying that's why it's important for priests to encourage and find the resources necessary to strengthen marriages, because what will happen is that they will have children that will then go on to be good citizens, good Catholics, good people that will hopefully then in turn start good marriages as well. Although I would just make the point, it is possible to have a ruinous marriage and still bear some good fruit. Now, my mom and my dad, I would say, had a pretty amazingly dysfunctional marriage. They're still together, praise God, but in many ways, just a train wreck. And I love both my mom and my dad, of course. But I would have wished I could have had, I wish they could have had the same kind of, you know, loyalty and love and togetherness that what it sounds like both of you guys had with your parents. I would just say though, I mean, the consequence of that is then they had 3 children, one who got married and divorced, another one that is never going to get married. And then me, I'm, praise God, through, you know, prayer or whatever. I'm not trying to say I'm holier than that. It's a lot of prayer and a fantastic wife that you can find, you know, even in the midst of wreckage, you know, there can be healing. And I would just, you know, again beg our priests to really say, you know, what is it that we can do to try to offer healing? And there's this idea that, well, we don't want to talk about pornography or abortion or whatever, all these different things that might, be causing problems. It's like, well, if you don't confront the problems, then they're just going to stew, and people are going to, well, what is the purpose of church? Why don't men go? Well, if the only purpose of church is to, shake hands and be nice and sing a few songs, then it seems to have lost its meaning,
Nice
so
is a losing proposition. Yeah. Josh, first off, thank you for sharing that. It was really beautiful. And to anyone listening too, in that similar situation, actually some of the best examples of fathers or mothers I've seen have come from broken homes because they've seen what they do not want, and have so much inspiration to rise to that challenge with God's grace to have that beautiful thing. So I want to share that because not everyone comes from that situation. But back to your point about the bishops, and I think it's important to say this. His local bishop, Bishop Johnston in Kansas City area, he made a statement on behalf. Harrison Butker's passion for his Catholic faith and his family are beautiful and well known, and like most people, he also has strong opinions on where we're at as a church and as a nation. The Catholic Church believes that God calls everyone to pursue holiness no matter what path they take. As St. Paul notes, that diversity of callings and vocations is essential to the life and mission of the church. I support Mr. Butker's right to share his faith and express his opinions, including those critical of the bishops. And that is something that I think kind of gets lost in here. The first couple paragraphs of his speech did not go easy on exactly what you said about a really failure of leadership that we've all lived through, to the point where the only time you really hear from your bishop is when it's time to, start paying money for the annual appeal. And I just hope that, the bishops are open to receiving that message and critique with an open mind, in that the things that were said in this speech are on the mind of many Catholics around the country.
Yes,
and
amen.
They need to take that information, fulfill that leadership role. And I know many good priests, that young priests that are really taking that on right now. I had a great email from someone in Kansas City. Gosh, I feel bad. I'm not going to be able to name it, but there's a church in Kansas City. He was hired to revitalize the music department. And he said this priest has come in and just been amazing, just like transforming the community, being a great shepherd to the people, spiritually guiding people, not holding back hard truths. And I clicked on the video to watch it. I was like, this is a young guy. I mean, he looked like he had to have been in his 30s, maybe a little bit older, but a young guy.
Our young priests are heroes. They're doing great.
Young priests coming out swinging like that and like taking on that vocation that they've been called to be the spiritual father to a community. And like, I'd just like to personally give a shout out. I have a phenomenal parish priest here in Indianapolis who's the absolute leader of our community.
Well, and it's like
from tough topics.
But it's
that
so funny, like
too.
when there's a divergent opinion, usually it's the Catholic liberals are saying, "Hey, we need to listen. We need to listen what this person's saying and understand their shared experience." But then when Harrison Butker's like, "Oh, okay, cool. I got a different opinion. Can I offer that?" And it's like, "Shut up! You're just a kicker. Yeah. Shut up!" Yeah. I'm like, "Oh, it's kind of funny." But anyway, I would like to say again, Catholic Vote. We stand with Harrison Butker.
100%.
We encourage people to stand up for him. Come to our website, sign the petition, and pray. Pray for Harrison Butker and his wife and his kids. Pray that and offer thanks, but pray also for the owners of the Chiefs. They've been saying great things so far. And pray for Stephen Minnis and the great people at Benedictine College who, as you can imagine, are getting everything thrown at them in the kitchen sink. He gave me the sweatshirt, so
I cannot emphasize how great Benedictine College is. Like, I love Ave. Rosie knows I love Ave. I talk about it all the time. If I did not go to Ave, I would have gone to Benedictine College. Stephen Minnis is phenomenal. The professors there are phenomenal. Everything I sat in on, the social life, the Catholic life,
my good friend Tom Hoops there. That's a great place.
If you were looking for a place to check out,
my daughter was this close to going there, and she went with you, Mary, instead. But like it was that close. I mean,
so
it's just
100% behind Benedictine College. It was funny this happened because my brother went there. I have such personal experience. It is a phenomenal place to get a good Catholic liberal arts education. So huge shout out there. And then also some support came into from Archbishop Cordeleone, which I want to commend him for. And then arguably the second best player in the Chiefs, maybe third best if you think Travis Kelce deserves that, Chris Jones. Chris Jones on the defense came out and said he's behind Harrison Butker. So we're starting to get some support, which is great. And I feel like probably very needed right now as Harrison Butker's kind of taking on the world. So we had other things.
Man,
we were going to talk about where we kind of got lost in the sauce there. But we still have Twilight Zone. Rosie, I'm gonna go ladies first. You are up.
Okay. So I just think this is really funny. So yes, if you don't share my sense of humor, I'm gonna apologize in advance. I found this article on the New York Post from New Jersey, and it says that a New Jersey town is planning to kill dozens of geese who have turned a public park into their personal bathroom, despite strong opposition from community members over inhumane approach to the problem. So there's a war going on at this county in New Jersey over whether or not to gas the geese. The solution is that they're going to round up the roughly 60 geese at the time of the year when they don't have their feathers for flying and gas them to death with carbon dioxide.
Wow.
So we had Christy Nome and with the dead dog, and now we have these geese. So
why would they gas them? Why don't you just,
But people
wring their
like
necks
dogs.
and chop their heads off, and then you can have dinner. Like
Who's
this is
pro geese?
controversial because one side is saying
Take 'em out.
euthanizing geese is not only inhumane but cruel and disturbing as it involves the
I
deliberate
love when we say
killing of
something
living
is
beings.
inhumane when it comes to animals.
And then someone else said, your town is going to be known as the geese murderers.
How about we not use the term inhumane to talk about
Yeah.
animals until we stop killing our own humans? But
I was
like,
gonna
Yeah,
say until we chill out on
inhumane,
euthanasia,
yeah.
we can't be using inhumane for.
but
And New Jersey, they're fighting. They're like, we've tried everything. They had a geese police. They had dogs in the park that were the geese police that were chasing the geese away. They tried spreading organic compounds, placing special devices
Dang.
in the pond. Nothing is working. People are suggesting rehoming them, feeding them birth control, or scaring them away with bigger swans.
What?
These are the suggestions that people are getting instead of gassing. There's a petition.
maybe
an
they should
online
watch The
petition.
View, and then they'll.
Yeah, there you go.
2,000 people have signed an online petition trying to save the Canada geese.
Let's be honest though. How different are geese than rats? Geese are the rats
No,
of the sky.
they're the rats of the sky. Yeah,
sure.
they're gross. They're
Why
disgusting.
don't they just give like a bunch of 16-year-olds a bunch of 22s?
BB guns?
Just take them all out.
Yeah.
So I just find this hilarious. Yeah, and they
Whoa!
said
Did you
that
see this from the
gas-
chat? We have Colorado. There's talk of killing the geese and feeding them to the homeless.
Oh no way!
That might be the play.
That might be the play.
I've never had.
I
geese
would assume that
personally.
the,
We should-
the homeless in
we should
Colorado
show
could
up
only be
in
given a
Jersey.
vegan diet, so that's actually good news. I'm surprised.
Shout out Vanessa for throwing Colorado from the sky, from the clouds there, coming in with
that's
the right
hilarious.
solution.
Wow.
Also,
Anyway,
I do want to.
geese in New Jersey.
I want to give a shout out. The church I was talking about in Kansas City is St. Gabriel the Archangel. So shout out to any parishioners if you guys
Of
are
course,
listening.
it's an angel.
Yeah,
Yes.
phenomenal email I got from someone from there. So shout out. Okay, Josh, Twilight Zone, what you got?
So the Pope decides to go on 60 Minutes. Kind of crazy.
Oh gosh,
They're starting to do some of
strapping.
the clips here, and then Sunday night you can watch the rest of it. I mean, it's just, again, I can't help but feel like it's a Twilight Zone.
do you want to
roll
do
the tape now?
Well, I was gonna say it's gonna be translated, but
Oh yeah, and that's probably best.
yeah.
Anyway, so he says he just talked about like he says it's one thing to take, because one thing is to take tradition into account, to consider situations from the past, but quite another to be closed up inside a dogmatic box. Okay, that's what I love about it. Tradition to him is okay if you consider the past, which means, yes, I'll think about it before I throw it in the trash can. That's what he's saying. Like, oh, wow, thanks, buddy. You've considered it. Like, that's
well,
like
Josh,
when
the quote before was, he was asked, what do you think about American conservative Catholics? Was his
he called it
paraphrase.
suicidal.
And he said,
Right.
conservative is one who clings onto something and does not want to see beyond that. It is a suicidal attitude.
Yeah, suicidal, right. I mean, look at him cling. He's the one who clings. Like, 1970, we have to have the hippie masses and stuff like that. Like, give me a break. Like, you're the one that is clinging to everything in the culture. Like, gosh, it just drives me so crazy.
Dude,
I
knew
mean,
this was
America
gonna be so
right
bad.
now is the suicidal thing. It's this polemic attitude where people are just bashing
Well,
heads. It's like a cultural civil war.
Well, the
That's
suicide of the
that's
West. Like,
suicidal.
the people who
Yeah,
don't believe in the
suicide of the
future, they don't even have any children. Like, that's the suicide. Like if you have no hope for the future, you don't have any kids, right? Yeah, that's the attitude. That's crazy. But like this idea of like, again, it's just suicidal attitude. Like to me, it's just so condescending. Like,
do you think you liked Butker's speech? They
no, because Butker said he liked the Latin Mass.
Right. I was gonna say he talked a lot about the traditional Latin Mass. I'm sure he wasn't a fan of that. You know what? And that was actually an element to the story that bothered me because in the View clip, that Protestant was like, even the Pope himself isn't down with the Latin Mass, and I just hate that the leader of the Catholic Church who inherited the Latin Mass as our history as form of worship is so publicly against it that someone from the outside who didn't do much research clearly thinks that it's a extremist cult and that the Pope is against it.
Now look, but again, like that's one segment on the Mass, but just in general, I agree with you, but just in general that the Pope would have such, it's worth pausing. The Pope, the leader of the Catholic Church would have such a viscerally negative attitude of conservatism, of tradition. Like, really? The Pope, of the head of a 2,000-year-old religion known for being traditional, is going to have a problem with being conservative. It's like, what? It boggles the mind. Abraham Lincoln was once asked, what is conservatism? And he said, what is conservatism? Is it not adherence to the old and tried against the new and untried? Yeah, that's what it is. That's what it is, people. Now, does it mean you always must use what has always been done? No, but it's a pretty darn good guide to figuring out what we should do. Like, hey, how do we fly an airplane jet? Well, I don't know, do whatever you want to do. Don't care about traditions. Just fly. It's your feelings that matter. Like, actually, I'd rather know how this plane was flown before
I think that's how Boeing makes their planes now.
Yeah, exactly. How's that working out?
Yeah. Okay, so I know you've all been waiting on bated breath for my Twilight Zone. So Scottie Scheffler got arrested this morning.
Yeah, what happened?
And
what was this?
I saw this, and the memes have just been unbelievable. I'm so glad that I finally get to talk about this. Scottie Scheffler, #1 golfer in the world.
What did he get arrested for?
So I'll give a little bit of a breakdown, okay? So there was a golf reporter who was watching this go down. So Scottie Scheffler, there was an accident, I think, and there was police cars surrounding it right outside of Valhalla, which is where the PGA Championship's being played.
Valhalla? Are you kidding me?
In Louisville, yeah. In
You
Louisville.
can't write this, man. You can't write
Nothing
Yeah,
says
I know.
Norse gods like the PGA.
Exactly. So cop cars around. He's driving around the cop cars, which, because I assume, and this hasn't come out yet, maybe it will, he probably thought they were just around trying to keep people out of the golf course because he had to get there to go. And so he goes around, and a cop stopped him for going around and said, they say, attached himself to the car. So I don't know if he ran and put a hand on the car or was trying to get it to stop or whatever. And they said that he kept going. So he said he went at least 10 yards. And so he was like, the cop dragged him out of the car, put his hand on him, dragged him out of the car, put him in cuffs. He got arrested for a felony. And then he was like, as this is happening, he looked at the golf reporter witnessing all this and said, help me. Like, it was such a weird day's thing. This is early morning. He gets booked, and there's a mugshot of him out now. And update, he's been released. Like, he got released. This is all before the second round of the PGA Championship, which is insane. And how did no one in this police force know who Scottie Scheffler was? The #1 golfer in the world. I mean, he looks a little unassuming, I guess, but he was there to go golf.
Scottie Scheffler was.
And so the memes have just been unbelievable.
So now he's got wow.
There's a picture of the Louisville Police Department, and there's just a bunch of golf clubs outside of a police unit of what they confiscated. My personal favorite was the prison bike meme. Is that the next one we have up?
Prison Mike is the gift that just keeps on giving.
Scottie Scheffler on the first tee at Valhalla today, and is that's the way we talk in the clink, and it was Prison Mike.
So now he's got the green jacket and an orange jumpsuit. That's kind of cool.
And he could get the checkered one if he wins the PGA Championship. I think that's what you get. But people are making memes saying Rory McIlroy's behind it, or his competitors, or.
Dude, I mean,
So
I remember
funny,
the day
man.
that you kind of joke about that, but I mean that whole Nancy Kerrigan thing, that was wild, man.
Yeah, so shout out to Scottie Scheffler, legend. There's like videos circulating of him playing pickup basketball and being really good too. So the PR for Scottie's been phenomenal so far. Every cool dude in history has a mugshot, by the way. You think like Johnny Cash. I mean, as of recent, the Trump mugshot went pretty viral as well. Like that's kind of a mark of.
You're looking to get your photo snapped, Tom?
I don't know. We'll see. I don't know. Maybe one day I'll get a mugshot.
Is there a
I don't
mugshot
know.
of me out there? I don't know.
Is there?
No.
Dude, are you okay? I was gonna say that's got to be public.
There was that
If you
moment
get-
you
if you
thought
get a
it could be
picture on a mug,
possible.
I thought it could be possible for a second. I'm like, look, he wears sweatshirts now. He's kind of a bad boy. Like maybe he's getting mugshots. Any Rosie mugshots floating out there in your young career?
Oh gosh, no. I mean, my Ave ID.
She turned a
looked
paper
like
in
a
late,
mugshot.
right? One
I don't
time.
know, like that was
Peop-
bad.
People
Pictures
gave
of
me
me in a
such a hard
habit.
time.
I don't know if that counts.
People gave me such a hard time about my Ave ID too because I just got done with a workout and they're like, "Hey, you got to get this new ID." And so I walk out and I'm wearing a tank top and I look really angry because I was probably buzzing on like 300 milligrams of pre-workout. And so it genuinely looked like I wanted to kill someone. So that was my picture for like a year or two. So everyone
Oh,
basically
they
thought it was.
still have mine because I was 21 when I started college, and my hair was growing out from the convent. It's at this really like awkward stage. in the photo. I think we took it against my fridge at home. It's the worst picture ever.
Okay,
Um,
thanks for
but
making
I
me feel
had it
old
all.
talking about college IDs, guys.
Yeah.
I graduated 25 years ago.
Excuse my ignorance, Rosie, but when women join the convent, do they usually cut their hair? Like, is that a thing? Like
Depends on the order.
Okay.
Yeah.
so
Mine did.
your order, like they just cut it really short?
I'm not going to disclose
Yeah, come on,
details
man.
about
Is that
how
a thing?
short,
Secrets.
or it depends on the order. But
Okay.
yeah. depends
Okay,
on the
but it's a
order.
secret kind of. Clearly.
Yeah. You don't
Okay,
really talk
interesting.
about it. But I mean, I came back and I had really short hair. So
What happens in the
Secret
convent
is
stays in the convent, Tom.
Sorry, I was just curious, I'm just asking questions. But yeah, Rosie, thank you for coming on. That was it for this
Yeah,
show.
thanks for having me.
If you guys want to support us here, you can subscribe, like this episode, Apple Podcasts and Spotify. You can leave me a review. If you want to support the show as a champion, it's the only way we're able to do this. Thank you to all the champions listening right now. Loopcast at catholicvote.org. You can support us monthly by becoming a champion. And then if you want to email me, add to the Dear Josh. I've already gotten one or two Dear Joshes. So we're compiling a Dear Josh document for questions for the Joshua Mercer. So you could do that at loopcast at catholicvote. Loopcast at catholicvote.org. Email.
Yeah, you say it every time, and then
I know,
after
it
you say
confuses
you
me now.
question yourself for some
Right,
reason.
because
they
it'd
put
be
it up for you. There you go.
www.loopcast. Loopcast.org is where you can donate. Loopcast at catholicvote.org is where you can email.
One's a website and one's an email address.
Right, I've used all of my
Maybe you
brain
should
power
understand
for the week.
difference.
Like by the
Just
time I hit the
tattoo it
Friday
on your
show,
wrist, Tom.
but by the time I hit the Friday show, all my brain power's gone. Like I've put it all on the table, and
But like every show, you make the same mistake, bro.
I know it's that my brain power is gone by the end of episode. Apparently, it's not even by the
All
end
right,
of the week.
all right. We love
Yeah.
you, Tom.
Biggest thing you can do: pray for us, pray for Harrison, especially going on this week. We're praying for you, St. Thomas More, Our Lady of Guadalupe, and St. Fidelis. Pray for us.
Yeah,
See you
St.
guys next
Benedict,
week.
pray for us. Yeah.
St. Benedict, pray for us. Peace.